Good afternoon, everybody. We are looking at some storm coverage here moving into next week. We are looking at the possibility for some severe weather. I think here along the Grand Strand, our biggest risk for severe weather is going to be the damaging winds, maybe the potential for a tornado or two. Not to scare anybody right now, but we are watching that very, very closely here over the next couple days as we get a little bit closer. As you can see here, what we're dealing with, we are under a 15% risk of severe weather moving into Wednesday. So this is out to Wednesday. This is a very rare day 5. We had a very rare day 7 when this was initially issued. They did shrink this down quite a bit and kind of pulled this western portion of the state out of that area. So I will explain that here in a little bit. So what we're going to do here is we're going to break this all down and talk from tomorrow all the way through Wednesday and to where this system is off the coast. So how does this all kind of come together, and what is it going to be looking like here as we move through the next couple days? That's what we're going to break down right here on this live coverage here today. So if you have any questions, please be sure to put them in the comments below. I will try my best to answer those for you. I will be following all comments here on social media, here on Facebook for sure. YouTube, we will be monitoring those and answering those as we can. But I'm going to just make sure I have that pulled up here on Facebook here so I can watch those comments as you guys are asking any questions. I'm here to answer any questions as we go along. We have a lot to cover here with this storm. This is a very massive storm system that's going to be moving its way across the United States Monday through Wednesday. So we've got a lot to talk about here. But we will hop right on in here. As far as our forecast here today, absolutely beautiful. Highs are in the 70s here as we move through the afternoon. However, we do have this cold front that will be stretching and working its way through the area as we move through the evening and overnight hours. That is going to bring us a drop in temperatures going Sunday into Monday. Tuesday we start to rebound and set ourselves up here for the potential for some severe weather as we move through into the middle portion of next week. So how does this all play out here? Well, let's go back here to day 2. This is going to start out tomorrow. This is going to give, if I can get out of this, this is going to give us starting out here in western Oklahoma, northwestern portions of Texas, up into Kansas. So they do have a slight risk here for some severe weather, and we'll take a peek at that on models here in a few minutes here. So we'll talk about that as we get into the models. We'll move through that. And then moving into day 3 here, which will be Tuesday. Tuesday is where things really start to, or sorry, Tuesday. Things will start to kind of form here over Oklahoma and into portions of north central Texas as well. And then as we get out to day 4 here is where we really start to see that ramp up. Now this will be Tuesday moving into Wednesday over the daytime hours. Wednesday is when we're looking to see our severe weather. So this will be Tuesday here as we kind of move through. They do have a 30% probability of severe weather here for these areas in the darker yellow here. That's going to include areas like Jackson, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Little Rock's in there, Jackson, Mississippi's in there, Shreveport, Louisiana, New Orleans, down into the more of the 15% possibility there. But they're kind of this area out here around this dark yellow into the lighter shades of yellow is going to be your 15% risk as we move through the day on Tuesday and into the overnight hours for places like Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, Atlanta. We'll be seeing some of this system work through in a time of day where the instability is just a lot less. So that's kind of why when you come out here to day 5, you see a big difference there between day 4. You have the cutoff right here. So your cutoff's here, and then we switch to day 5, and the cutoff's here. So we're missing this area right in here. Looks like conditions are going to be very unfavorable for severe weather during the hours that system is working its way through. So Atlanta, Columbia's going to be right on the line. The western portions of North Carolina, Georgia pretty much misses everything until they get to the Savannah area here as far as risks go for severe weather. But you can see over the last 24 hours or so, about 24 hours ago here, this 15% margin came out a little bit further and pretty much covered the entire state of South Carolina. The Storm Prediction Center has now decreased that a little bit, and I'll show you why here on models as we kind of go through. So Tuesday definitely going to be the big day here. This is the way this system is coming in, very negatively tilted trough by this point, and that's going to start ejecting the low pressure. The center of low pressure is going to eject off to the north and east, so that's going to be somewhere up over here, up into portions of the Minneapolis, Bay City area. That's where that center of low pressure is going to be. And that storm extends the whole way down. It's a very large storm here, and we'll see that here in a second. But by then, you're going to start seeing this severe weather really start honing in around this darker yellow area, because we're going to be pulling moisture off of the Gulf all day long there, and that's going to be raising those dew points. You'll see that we'll have a really, really intense warm area here. So we'll definitely take a look at that. It's hard to explain this when I'm not looking at the models. So let's back out of this here, and we will pull up our models here and kind of show you what we're looking at as far as moving out into the middle of the week here. So we'll get started on that. We're going to start on the GFS here. Here we are right now on Saturday. You can see as we start to move through, this is going to give you what the radar might look like here. And you can see here, Monday we start to see that risk of some severe weather here. We're looking the possibility. There is a trough that extends down. We do have some issues here that we're going to be looking at as we kind of move through, so we can take a peek at what that might look like in the upper levels here right now. So if we zoom in here, you can see this right in here. That's going to give that's what's given that indication. You can see where these isobars kind of drop down. That's what's going to give that indication of that severe weather risk there. Very small risk here, not a whole lot looking out to Monday, but we are watching that trough, those little troughs, as that kind of moves through. But as we move through into, we'll go back to 500 here, you can see this trough out here really starting to take shape. Here's the center of low pressure, very large center of low pressure building out here over the western United States, out near California, Las Vegas, those areas. This is where this system really starts to work and start moving through rather quickly here over between Monday and Tuesday, and then eventually into Tuesday afternoon and early evening. This is when we start seeing those chances increase. But here you can see these winds here. If you look at the wind barbs, where you see the flags here, that is the wind direction. So that's where the wind is going towards. Okay, so we want to watch these areas because this is where it's pulling that moisture off of the Gulf. Okay, so these are the upper levels. These are 5,000 millibar height. This is getting pretty high up in the atmosphere. Okay, so these are very strong winds aloft, very high. If we come down here and look at the 850 millibar, this is going to be about 4,000 feet off the surface, a couple thousand feet off the surface. So again, very strong winds. These are winds at 70 knots, a little bit more. So that's going to give you your wind shear. Okay, so this is where we're pulling a lot of that moisture off of the Gulf, and that's going to be bringing and increasing the dew points here. As we look at dew points, take a peek at that here real quick. You can see this warm nose really digs in all the way up into portions of Illinois, Indiana, pretty far north here to where that moisture is really going to be riding up. This is a very strong system with very strong upper and lower level winds. So going to be pulling a lot of moisture off of the Gulf here, moving up into the central portions of the United States, up in Tennessee Valley, Mississippi River Valley, all in that for those higher dew points. Now, over the past couple days, these dew points have kind of trended a little bit south, but I do think that ahead of this system, as the system progresses, we'll see those dew points kind of increase a little bit further north as well as we go through the next couple days. But as far as temperatures go, we're looking very, very warm here for the southern portions of the United States. I think that, most of our severe weather here, and we'll look at that here real soon on the convective radar here. I think the majority of our severe weather is going to be occurring in these portions of western Arkansas, northern Mississippi into western Tennessee, Nashville area. Could see some significant severe weather as well. But again, a lot can change here. This is still a couple days away. We will keep monitoring for this area, and I'm pretty sure we'll probably go live with a radar feed on Tuesday just to keep people aware of warnings and things. So if you have family and friends in these areas, we will be monitoring those warnings as we move through the day on Tuesday. So definitely want to keep an eye on this system as it moves across the United States. Now, as for us, let's take a peek here for us on the GFS as we move a little bit further to the east and into Wednesday. Now, timing is really kind of, you're going to have to give me a couple more days on this for timing, but right now it looks to be during the daylight hours on Wednesday, which is a good thing for us because if we're going to have severe weather, I would rather have it during the day than in the overnight hours so we can really see what's going on. So here we are right now. This is 7 a.m. on Wednesday. This is at the 500 millibar height, so we've got some not as robust of winds higher up in the 500 millibar on Wednesday as what we've had the past couple days. But what I'm looking at is these lower level winds here. We're looking at still at 64 knots here towards the center of the state, out near Florence, 62 knots. And this is, again, 4,000, a couple thousand feet off the ground here at the 850 millibar. So, you can see that shift in the winds between the upper levels. If you watch these wind barbs here, so this is the 500 millibar coming out of the southwest, and by that time we're coming almost due south here, so we do have a little bit of wind shear that's going to be taking over there, and we will have favorable conditions for severe weather at that point, and we can't rule out the possibility of maybe a tornado if the conditions stay this way. So we'll pull a sounding here and just take a look. Nothing there on that sounding that indicates anything major there. And again, on this one earlier today, the previous model runs, I was pulling some soundings that were showing the possibility that we could see some tornadic activity there, but nothing on those right now. So that's a pretty good sign here as far as severe weather goes for us. Now, the majority, I think, of the severe weather at this point, based on the GFS, and the Euro is kind of trending the same way. The biggest difference between the Euro and the GFS is really timing. So that's where, we're still several days out from this, so a lot can change as far as timing goes, but I will keep track of that. And we're going to look at the Euro here. We'll go over that as well. But even up in here to portions of Virginia, up into even south central Pennsylvania, still at the 60 knots at the 850 millibar. So very strong winds aloft, just off the surface, mixing with those very strong winds above as well, can create some very favorable conditions for some severe weather. So we definitely want to keep an eye on these areas pretty much straight down through. The significance gets a little bit less as we get down into South Carolina and Georgia, but even down into the panhandle of Florida, you're still looking at 50 knots, and then those little areas here within South Carolina and Georgia where you're seeing some of those higher 50s into 60s, and then getting up close. There's 71 knots there in Virginia, so definitely a lot of wind. It's going to be a very windy day, and this is where I'm kind of thinking that the majority of our impacts are going to be those damaging wind gusts. Can't roll out those severe thunderstorms at all. You cannot roll out a tornado as well. Conditions will definitely be favorable for those types of events. But as of right now, still a little too early to kind of dictate where our major threats might be. But at this point, based on these model runs, I'm putting most of the largest portion of the threat's going to be from the central North Carolina up to about the Mason-Dixon line in Maryland, right there at the Pennsylvania-Maryland line. As far as, let's take a peek at our temperatures and dew points here at 7 a.m. on Wednesday. Looking 67 degrees in the morning at 7 a.m. So very, very warm going into the morning as well. Our dew points here for that time of day, very strong dew points here up in the 60s. So we're pretty much fully saturated here here at the coast in Myrtle Beach. So Myrtle Beach would be looking somewhere around 62 dew points as well as we move. So the conditions are there. We do have that favorable conditions for severe weather as we move through the morning hours and through the day on Wednesday. So what does this look like here? And then we'll kind of bounce back and forth here between some different portions of these models here. But let's take a peek at what the composite reflectivity could look like. And I will zoom in here, local. We'll get it right on in here to South Carolina and take a peek at what that might look like here. So here is the radar here at 7 a.m. on Wednesday. Storms moving in through the Columbia area, Florence area, starting to see some of those storms by 7 a.m. And by 10, starting to work our way into and close to the Grand Strand at that point with some severe weather. And by 1 p.m., we have a strong line of severe weather, a strong line of precipitation here, which could be severe by 1 p.m. here along the coast. So if you have golf plans, I would probably cancel those golf plans for the day on Wednesday. However, and I say that because my dad is playing golf and I know that he has tee times in the morning. So definitely going to be laughing at him here because he's very upset that we're getting some storms during the day. But as we hop over to the European model, things might change. You just never know. But we'll take a peek at the Euro here in a few minutes. But as far as severe weather goes, really looking at some really unstable air for us here. And I got to pop this out to a regional view here to get some of that information. So let's take a look here. What I want to look at here is our Cape, okay? So these are we don't have too much of unstable Cape here. to indicate that we're going to have 2 large of severe thunderstorms here on the GFS right now, but we definitely are slightly unstable here. This is going to show our most unstable air. Okay, so the higher the, obviously these blues and dark colors down in here are very unstable air. For the most part, most of the unstable air stays off of the coast as this system wants to move through, but we still do run that slight risk for severe weather. Now, if you take a peek at this, I'm going to show you why they've kind of decreased that that marginal area for us here, that 15% chance of severe weather. Because if you look at this, as this comes across, you see a little bit of unstable cape up there in the western, and then it kind of gets a little bit stronger here towards the coast. So they've kind of moved that in. They say, well, we're not, the timing of this system here is really looking unfavorable here in parts of Georgia and western South Carolina, so we're going to move that a little bit farther east along the coast here, and this is where we're going to have our most unstable air from Charleston to up into North Carolina here a little bit for the afternoon hours as we work through the day on Friday. Cannot rule out some pop-up thunderstorms here in the afternoon, early evening for western portions, but the chance of severe weather is mainly going to be here along the coast, and we'll monitor that. Now, like I said, this can change 500 times before they run these models multiple times a day, and until we can really hone in on the high resolution models as we get about a day or two out, we will really start to understand the timing and what we're looking at here. But as of right now, looking pretty good for that chance of severe weather. And now this is the supercell composite here. This outlines the conditions favorable for developing supercells. Not a whole lot here. We're looking at a 1 here along the coast. So as far as massive supercell storms, don't think that we're really going to be running a large risk for that based off of this information here right now. But if we look at our dew points here just throughout the day, you can see at 7 a.m. we've got dew points extending pretty far north here in the 60s all the way up into North Carolina, all the way up into the North Carolina area, and we still have dew points in the 50s up moving up the coast. Now, what does this look like for the national? Let's just go up a little bit further here. So let's go up into the mid-Atlantic here and just take a look at dew points extending. See, and this is where they're extending that threat all the way up into portions of Pennsylvania, because we still have these dew points in the 50s as you get up in towards areas like D.C. and Maryland, Baltimore, up to the Mason-Dixon line. Still relatively high dew points, so there's a lot of moisture associated with this. And we definitely can see that increase for severe weather. You would think the most severe would be here, but I'm actually looking at those upper level winds and the 850 millibar winds. This is, I think, where we're going to see the most significant severe weather, if any. We definitely do run that risk here in South Carolina, so don't hold me to that position here. This has changed multiple times over the past even 24 hours as these models start to align a little bit more, but there's definitely high confidence that we will see severe weather up and down the eastern seaboard here, all the way, even extending up into portions of central Pennsylvania as well. Can't rule that out for them as well. Now, what are we looking at here as far as the European? So let's take a peek here. This is out today right now, and at 500 millibar, you can see that trough working for tomorrow, Sunday into Monday, and that's where we're seeing that risk there for the central Texas and up into Oklahoma. Very small, slight risk of severe weather for those areas tomorrow into Monday, but the big picture is this trough extending here. We are going to be coming over here to about a neutral tilt here, and then eventually kicking to where we're getting that negative tilt here, and that's where the severe weather really starts out on Tuesday. And this looks like it's going to be the overnight hours of Tuesday and into Wednesday for these portions of the Tennessee River Valley, Mississippi River Valley, and portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, northern Louisiana, for the highest portion of severe weather as we move through those 24 hours there between Tuesday into Wednesday. And this is where, when this has the Europeans coming a little bit closer, starting to align with the GFS as far as timing goes, but we are looking at that trough extending over into portions of western North Carolina in the morning hours, and then eventually across into our area by the early afternoon. Now let's take a look at the winds here on the Euro as we move through the day here, out at about 10 a.m. here on Wednesday. We're still looking at 850 millibar winds of about 63 knots. So very heavy winds here in the central portion of South Carolina. This is going to be our main viewing area here, if you live in the Myrtle Beach area. So very high winds, likelihood of winds here. So damaging winds is definitely not going to be something we can rule out. Now, what is the potential radar going to be looking like? I don't have the convective on this, but I do have precipitation type here. We can kind of hone in. Let's pull in here local and see what we're kind of thinking, what the radar could look like for this time, or this day here. So on Wednesday, starting at 7 a.m., it looks like showers and storms are moving into the Greenville area. By 10 a.m., we've got showers and storms heading into Columbia, and then by 1 p.m. here along the coast and into the Carolina Forest, Conway area, and Myrtle Beach, and eventually by 7 p.m., everything's completely out of here. So this is going to be, a very significant line of storms that is going to move through. So I think this line is going to stay together pretty well as it wants to move across the state. But timing is really starting to get a little bit closer together here for between the GFS and the Euro. So the next couple days here, we will have a little bit more information as we start getting some of those high-res models shooting back to us as to what we can look for there. Now, if you're in portions of Texas into tomorrow, we can take a peek at, on the GFS, what we think that might look like for you guys moving in through the next couple days. Let's pull this out, go national, and see what this is going to look like, kind of breaking down as far as composite reflectivity here. So we'll run this all the way back to about Sunday. So here's Sunday early evening. We're looking at that line of thunderstorms that is not very robust at this point. There's not a whole lot of instability there, but there is a slightly unstable air there that we think out ahead of this and this low pressure as it's forming can kick a little bit of moisture and a little bit of those winds out here to create some unstable air for severe weather for portions of Texas and Oklahoma as we work through Sunday into Monday, and then eventually that kind of dissipates and falls apart there. But then we work out here into Tuesday, and you can see that center of low pressures up here over the Midwest and extending all the way down, pulling that moisture off of the Gulf and creating what is looking like to be a very large severe thunderstorm and tornado risk here for these portions of Mississippi, Louisiana, northern Louisiana, western Tennessee, Arkansas, extending all the way up into the Midwest, up into we got Wisconsin, we've got Illinois, we've got Indiana. All can see some impacts of this, and some of these severe storms could stretch all the way up into those areas. If we look at, let's look at dew points here. Those dew points do extend all the way up and into portions of southern Wisconsin as well, southern Michigan, seeing some of those higher dew points. So definitely nothing as robust of moisture as what we are seeing down here in this warm sector of this system. However, do run that chance that you could see a scattered, isolated severe storm as well up into the central United States, into the Midwest as well. So can't rule out that as well. As we work across, you can see those dew points really start to increase the morning of our system here as we, or the morning of our threat here in Myrtle Beach. Those dew points really increase and then quickly kind of move and decrease into the 40s and 30s as we go throughout the day on Wednesday. So this is where we're thinking, based on timing, and the fact that this system is really starting to push quickly as it reaches Wednesday morning, we're starting to see the possibility kind of decrease for those portions of Columbia, Greenville, western South Carolina, northeastern and western Georgia, really starting to see that threat kind of dissipate because it's just a really bad timing for those areas for severe weather. So the greatest risk is going to be, like I said, from the Mason-Dixon line down through the eastern portions of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and central Virginia, where we're looking to see the greatest severe threat here as we go into Wednesday. But again, like I said, a lot can change as we work through the next couple days. This has changed drastically throughout the last 3 days here that we've been watching this. So now we are looking here, 7 a.m. composite reflectivity Wednesday. Storms, that line of storms is working into the central portion of South Carolina, and again by about 1 p.m. we're looking at that line making its way into and along the Grand Strand and the coast here of South Carolina. Eventually, by the early evening, overnight hours, it is out of here and gone. So looking probably like by 7 p.m. That should be out of here and gone. So what are the major risks here? What we're looking at here as far as major risks are going to be that wind damage, and definitely want to pay attention to the radar as we kind of move through that day. We will go live and do some chasing here on Wednesday. We do have that planned. So we will be live throughout the day on Wednesday and keeping an eye on that line as it works its way across the state here and across the country. So definitely want to keep an eye on the sky as we kind of move through the day on Wednesday, but we will keep you updated on this as we kind of move forward. Again, 15% probability of severe weather right now. That has shrunk a little bit over the past 24 hours. The Storm Prediction Center is honing in on this more coastal eastern portions of North Carolina, Georgia, and then central Virginia is definitely in that. Portions like Richmond, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, east, extending even into southern New Jersey, Ocean City, New Jersey, Atlantic City's in that. So definitely want to keep an eye on those areas as well. So biggest threat here, and we can look here. Let's pull up the models here on our radar and see what, so let's get off of that. We'll go to composite reflectivity. Now let's take a look here at what Radar Omega wants to show us here as far as reaching out to Wednesday. Here you can see that system really blowing up here over parts of Little Rock, Shreveport, and moving east in through Nashville. Very, very heavy storms at this point. And eventually through the overnight hours, not ruling out some very heavy rain for these portions of Atlanta, all the way even up into Knoxville, Tennessee, Asheville, North Carolina, Greenville. You can definitely be experiencing some heavy rain, but as far as that high-end severe We don't see that as of right now. It's not as likely as it will be here along the coast. And the GFS here on Radar Mega kind of shows what looks like it wants to kind of weaken a little bit here as it's out in the portions of Florence, and then really get its act together here right along the coast as it wants to move through. But like, as far as high damaging winds, I think a lot of that might be up in here as far as Richmond, Washington, D.C., and extending down even east then into Virginia Beach. But we could see some very damaging, cannot rule out damaging wind here in the Myrtle Beach area. But this is out at 1 p.m. on Wednesday here. So definitely going to be keeping a very close eye on this area as we move through the day and into 1 p.m. Probably might head out into the Florence area to kind of intercept this as it's coming through, but we will know a little bit more during the morning hours when we get up. We'll check some surface data and see where we want to start our chase, but definitely going to be an area to watch here as we move through into Wednesday morning and afternoon here along the coast. So we will definitely keep you updated. I don't want to hold you guys any longer, but I appreciate any of you that have watched this and that are supporting us as we kind of move through. Again, a lot of things can change here over the next 24-48 hours. I mean, we're still out to day 5 here on this coverage, so Wednesday's still a long way away, but we're going to be doing daily updates every day from now till Wednesday. Wednesday we will be live pretty much all day, covering this as things happen. So if you haven't done so yet, we have some exciting news coming up here really soon. So definitely head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to YouTube. Because we're trying to build that up to 1,000 subscribers right now. So if you can head over there and do that for us, subscribe, like our information over there, and hit that little bell button. Every time we go live, you will get a notification. We do go live during severe events, so you definitely want to be subscribed and notified of us going live. We can pop on live during severe events at any time. So definitely want to be over there on YouTube. Thank you for joining us here on Facebook. For those of you on Facebook, we greatly appreciate you guys checking in with us and seeing what the weather looks like here moving through. But we will have live coverage here of this system as we track it across the United States here over the next couple days. Tuesday, definitely going to be live with a radar feed. And watching warnings and specific to tornado warnings and things like that here in the Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi area, Nashville, Tennessee. Can't rule that out for them as well. So definitely a very powerful storm coming, probably the biggest storm we've had all year. And doesn't look like it's going to change very much anytime soon. I think this pattern's going to stick around for quite some time here moving into the spring. But happy meteorological spring today. This is day 1 of the meteorology world of springtime. So we're going to be kicking off the first week of spring here, weather spring wise. Looking like it's going to go out with a bang here in the beginning. So we will keep an eye on this and keep you updated. I thank you for joining us here today for this storm coverage, and we will see you tomorrow for the Coastal Cast. We will be recording the Coastal Cast. That may just become a live with storm coverage for tomorrow instead of doing 2 separate things. So probably around the same time, 1:30, 2 o'clock, we will be back live again with another emergency update and live storm coverage for you guys. So thank you for joining us. Head over to YouTube, subscribe, and hit that bell button. We appreciate you, and we love your support. Thank you.